A very good evening to all, and good to see you today. On behalf of our institute, I'd like to welcome you all to our today's event. And today we have with us Mr. John Philip Court from Coldpad, and John will be discussing with us on the topic life extension and structural challenges in the marine environments. A few words about John. John Philip Court is the CEO of Coldpad and is a structural engineer with more than 25 years of experience in the oil and gas industry. John is a specialist in offshore steel structures and FPSOs and has an experience in engineering, construction and installation of large offshore projects. He spent more than 10 years within Total as a structural specialist with a strong focus on FPSO life, structural modifications and repairs. He founded the startup Coldpad in 2011 and has developed his expertise in structural bonding through many R&D projects, notably with Total and IFPE and the French Institute of Petroleum. Let's welcome John to deliver the presentation. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, so I don't need to introduce myself anymore. So I'm going to tell you a bit more about our technology, where we are coming from and where we are going, and different products. We have two different products that we are proposing, and different application and experience that I'm going to talk about. First, let's start with the safety moments, which is purposely chosen to introduce our technology. It's about corrosion, and corrosion not in a simple place, but corrosion just above crude oil tank of a FPSO. As you know, crude oil tank is storing the storage of a tank, crude oil. And then if you need to repair, it can be quite risky and quite a nightmare. So what to do in this condition? You have different scenarios. The first one is you do nothing. A lot of our clients tend to do that and to postpone and to procrastinate as much as they can. The good thing for that is it doesn't cost anything, but at one point it can be a bit tricky when the pipe is simply resting onto the deck, which usually leads to the scenario 2, where you need to do something, and the classical and normal way of doing it is through hot work. So if you want to weld the pipe support onto a deck which is located above a crude oil tank, you usually need to empty the tank and to clean the tank and to place some inert gas before being able to weld the support onto the deck. And after, once you've done that, you need, of course, because you have increased the heat, you need to do the pen touch-up at the top, but also inside. So you have to put some breathable air and to send some painters with scaffolding or rope access in order to have this paint job to be done. And the third, now the alternative is doing that a cold way, meaning no hot work, and having a way which is reliable and acceptable to the industry to do it the cold way. And this is what we propose. So the business case for that is quite simple. So it's the pipe support example that you've just seen. What we need to do is to do a surface preparation. It's all about bonding, so we need to have the metal, the steel, bare naked with no paint anymore. And then we have this installation tool that I will talk about that a bit further. Then we install the cyclos, what we call a bonded mechanical fastener, and then we bolt the new supports, and we can leave or get rid of the old one, depending on the client's will, and then we have managed to provide and to fit new pipe support with no hot work at this location. So our DNA, our meaning of life, is to improve reliability of bonding. When you have fastening means or joining means, usually available in the industry is welding or bolting or riveting, Well, it's all about introducing an alternative, a new way of joining two things, but with the same reliability level as the other classical fastening means. And in this way, we can penetrate the market and actually propose our service into the industry that needs reliability. So we have two products based on this technology. One is called CHILL, a structural reinforcement dedicated to FPSO hull structure. And the other one is a bonded mechanical fastener, which is called Cyclone. With this technique, the whole idea is to avoid hot work, to provide a cold solution, to address corrosion, leaks, fatigue cracks in the future, not yet now, and simple fastening. So our ambition, as you can see, is to shift the structural maintenance, which is usually requiring some shutdown, either planned or unplanned shutdown, to general maintenance, a bit like when you do your painting job, you would be able to do some structural work. So when we talk about reliability, we have conceptualized this reliability aspect for bonded connections. What is very important, what you must remember, is that bonding dislikes water. Water is one of the worst enemies of bonding in the two stages, during installation and during service life. Bonded composite reinforcement is widely used in aerospace industry and also in civil industry. What they do usually, it's in a warehouse where they control the atmospheric parameter. Ideally, you have to reach something like 50% of humidity, labs condition. That's the best for structural bonding. When you do civil engineering work with composites, you can allow up to 70% of humidity level. When you are offshore, you are reaching easily 90% or 100% of humidity with moisture, dew point, condensation onto your substrate. And this is where it gets tricky. So what you need to have is to master the installation condition and especially the humidity level. This is the key number one. Key number two is durability. You have to make sure that the water will not reach the bond line. Otherwise, you will have a degradation of your performance, which sometimes will occur, which sometimes will not occur, meaning that it will increase the scattering of the performance during the years. And increasing the scattering is actually the opposite of repeatability, is increasing the standard deviation, which will affect your design strength. Right? And the last but not least is the design strength. We've made hundreds of tests and hundreds of numerical simulation and behavior to make sure that we understand how it behaves in order to optimize the performance. So to summarize, you have to control installation and to avoid humidity, durability by avoiding the moisture from reaching the bond line, and the last but not least, to master also the strength to avoid what we call edge effects, because usually the stress will be concentrated close to the singularity, typically at the edges of your assembly. So challenge in life extension. So to give a bit of context, so what we do with that, we can address structural reinforcement onto a deck, typically FPSO deck, when it's heavily corroded. Class society will usually ask you to do crop and renew, a bit like what you have to do for crude oil carrier. The thing is, it's a bit tricky to do that offshore when FPSO is producing oil. And also, as I was telling, tertiary structures such as pipe support and rail. Now we are coming with a new product for deck plating, replacing a deck for a local reinforcement, and also other typical examples. So to summarize, when it's difficult for you to weld or to drill, this is where we are good. If you can weld easily or drill easily, there is no need to have a cold way of doing it, because it will be more expensive than standard. Cold chill. So now I'm going to tell you a bit more about our first product. So the adventure, the story is starting in 2011 when an idea becomes a concept and a patent, and then I was working at Total, and so I saw my colleague at Total and the French Petroleum Institute, and then we developed during a few years this technology. So now the technology is mature enough to be certified by the 4 class societies. It can address hull structure in general, flat structure, so deck, external hull, side shell, longitudinals, etc. It has been field proven. We've done 2 major projects, one for major, non-major in West Africa, another one for SBM. We won the first innovation award in 2015. After 3 years on R&D, we spent more than 3 million in development and in test for that. Okay, so how does it work? So as I was telling you, you need to have an envelope, but also reinforcement. So first, the function is to restore the structural integrity and of course to protect against further corrosion. What you could notice on that, the steel substrate, the base metal is naked here, meaning that we have done the surface preparation before in order to make sure that we have good adhesion between the structural polymer, epoxy resin, and the reinforcement. So this is the structural reinforcement that you can see, which is made of a plate. It's the steel plate, the super plates here, will be the reinforcement. And there is also an intermediate layer that I will explain what is this function. And of course, you have to inject the epoxy, which is in dark color in that. So this is the structural reinforcement. The second one is the envelope. So we need, as I was saying, to protect against the water ingression, and this is how we do. We have the envelope. This is a super plate, top plate, so reinforcement, but also we have a peripheral seal, like a big O-ring that will be compressed and that will prevent the water from reaching the bottom line. Okay. So when we arrive, so this thing will be prefabricated, so the seal and the super duplex plate and the intermediate layer will be prefabricated. We'll arrive in a blister, okay, and then we'll take up the plates, we do the fast preparation, and then we set this reinforcement onto the base metal. And then what we do, we apply a pressure reduction, a vacuum, that will act like a vacuum cup, okay? So we have vacuum cup, and then we can isolate the internal volume from the external environment. And this is where we control the atmospheric parameter. And this is where we apply a dehydration in order to reach very low humidity level. When I say very low, it's less than 10%. Once we've reached the desired atmospheric parameter, then we inject under vacuum the structural polymer, which is epoxy resin. And what is interesting here is that we take the advantage of the vacuum to have the seal compressed and to have the polymerization, the hardening of the resin while it's under vacuum. So the seal, which is compressed during the installation, will remain compressed for the whole service life. The typical Lineik forces is something like 1.5 ton per linear meter, so it's quite strong. And actually, the top plate is actually deforming due to the difference of pressure difference. Okay. Now, how does it work structurally? This is reinforcement. What we want to explain is the standard design of a reinforcing plate bonded onto a substrate. On the substrate, you will apply a tension, okay? And the tension, so I come back here. So you have a tension onto the substrate. And then this, in the blue line, is the forces which is acting onto the reinforcing plate. So meaning that when you have a force, a tension force in the base metal, then the force will be transferred into the reinforcement through the adhesive layer, okay? And it will be progressive. So it will take time, and this is what we call the anchorage length. So all the force will go here, and so it will take time to have the plate, the reinforcing plate, fully loaded, okay? And when the plate is fully loaded, it's acting like two springs in parallel. It will deform the same way. Meaning that the stress will be transferred mainly during this anchorage length. And this is where it gets tricky for bonded reinforcement, or for actually bonded assembly, is to transfer easily a force of the stress from the base metal to the reinforcement in this short area. And what happened is, because of the geometry, you have like a discontinuity, and this is explaining the bathtub profile of the stresses, right? So meaning that if you do a finite element analysis of this area and you refine the mesh, the finer the mesh will be, the higher the stress will be. Okay, because basically you're converging towards the analytical solution, which is infinite stress. Okay, and this is why base stress approach is actually a bit tricky when you are facing this. Usually, fracture mechanics is more appropriate. Right. So what we have added, because I'm a structural engineer, I'm used to stress-based approach. Fracture mechanics is a bit tricky and very difficult to actually control the order of magnitude. So what we have introduced here is this intermediate layer, which is intermediate deformation layer that will deform sacrificially and that actually will reduce drastically this edge effect. So the stresses at the edge. And in that case, we have finite stress. And finite stress will allow us to have a stress-based approach, which will be much convenient and much easier to control. Right? And also, we improve drastically the mechanical capacity of that. To give you an example, now here we have the test which is performed in National Lab in France. So this is the base metal. This is basically a slice of the reinforcement that you can see. So this is the base metal, and then on the left-hand side you can see the reinforcements. The typical load stress that we have to apply on the base metal is something like 1000 megapascal to have debonding. 1000. So we have to select ultra high strength steel in order to explore this the failure in the elastic mode. All right. So what you can see here is that what we have developed with Bureau Veritas is the first SN curve for bonded composite reinforcements. Okay, what you can see, so we've used the ISO, so the ISO which is dedicated to SN curve. We've made many samples, as much as it was required, and then we were able to elaborate this SN curve. And what we did is we apply this design to the midship of an FPSO, and we derived the life, the design life in fatigue, and then we arrived to 700 years of design life for a DFF, for a design fatigue factor of 1. So meaning that even if you take the worst case, which is a safety factor of 10, we still achieve the 70 years of design life in fatigue. Right? So now, the project itself, so West Africa, a big FPSO producing more than 100,000 barrels per day, corrosion level which is quite high and which is basically requiring repair. So we do the surface preparation, as you can see. Once the surface is prepared, we have that the painting and the naked steel. Then we install the reinforcements, and we do all the process that I've shown you, meaning vacuum, dehydration, tightness control. You can see the seal, how much is compressed, and then we use this robotic device to control all the parameters. What is interesting here is that every installation would be done exactly the same. It's highly repeatable. We control all the parameters. It's always the same process, with the same vacuum, the same flow. And this is how it looks like once it's installed. So we were proud to be up the Total 2019 Best Innovator, and then so to quote the article that they've shown on the internet, we managed to avoid a production loss of 100,000 barrels per day for 2 months, which is equivalent, which is greater than 300 million. So to give you order of magnitude, for an installation, for a campaign, we can install in one rotation something like 70 square meters, with the largest area which to be treated, which is about 20 square meters. Typical productivity is about 3 days for an area without excluding surface preparation. Another example, bracket repair in West Africa for an FPSO. We manage also to avoid production loss. What I would do is I will stop and I will ask some question before entering into the other product, which is a bonded mechanical fastener with the other application. If you have any question, and if you don't, I will answer. Yes.
Is there a maximum size plate that you can do?
Yes, the standard is 10 meter long. 10 meter long. We have a production line.
And thickness as well?
The thickness?
Yeah.
No, we are no limitation on thickness. Typical thickness is 12 millimeter. After we have to be above 12 because if we go lower than that, when we do the vacuum, it will deflect too much.
And can you butt two plates next to each other?
We could, but it lose a bit of its charm because we need to do the welding at this point. We are cold in meaning, but we could do, yes.
How would you get it off if you needed to do some more repairs in the future that require hot work?
We didn't work too much on how to get it off, but we have some ideas. I will show you for the other product. We have a tool specially made to get it off. Here is meant to be a permanent repair,
Yeah.
so, but I'm sure there is something we can work on that.
Sorry, another question.
Yes.
Can you weld on top of it afterwards, or will it damage the ceramic, the resin underneath?
I would recommend something like TIG, a low energy input to do that.
Okay.
We haven't tried, we need to qualify it, but I wouldn't be concerned. The polymer can take quite heat load without being damaged.
Okay.
Just to build on that question about having your cavities lining up side by side and not connecting. You
Yes.
don't know top plate continuity, so you're only repairing a localized area. It's not a global repair.
No, it is global repair. We don't have continuity. Let's say you have a hull gather strength to cover. So you have longitudinal stress to address, not transversal, longitudinal. So if you have a defect which is, let's say, 2 meter or 3 meter wide, like a big corrosion spot, then you can put your 10 meter long reinforcement that will act longitudinally. So you will have still the anchorage length required to bridge this defect in a longitudinal direction, not in transverse. Is that clear?
Yeah, but two cavities side by side, you're still going to have a gap between the two cavities.
Yes, meaning transversally. Transversally speaking, I do not have the continuity. But usually the reinforcement is required longitudinally because this is where the hogging and sagging is generating some stress. Transversally is usually not so much of an issue. You understand it's orthotropic?
I understand. I'm just thinking larger areas.
Yeah, larger area. No, it's unidirectional so far. It's one direction privileged. And then it's hull gather strength. It's global effect, not local reinforcement. It's a class-approved alternative to crop and renew.
But if you had a crack, you can use it on cracks?
No.
No.
No, not yet. We are working on that, but no, not yet. And we have to have no thing through because we need to make vacuum. And crack is a different animal. It's usually a high criticality depending on the location. So we need to also to monitor it. Shall I go to the second part?
Okay. No more questions, right?
Yeah, so I've got
Sorry.
one more.
Yeah, good.
Where you've got corrosion plates there,
Yes.
has there got to be a minimum thickness there, or because obviously if you're getting the vacuum there, you can possibly pull up and damage the original plate underneath. Then
Yes, that's right. But it needs to be very very thin. Usually we can go with pitting down to 6 millimeter remaining steel. 6 millimeter
or
remaining.
from an original 12, so 50% diminution.
For original, sorry, you're talking about the top plate or the top, the plate, the reinforcement is 12 millimeters, the minimum that we require.
Yeah.
This is a new material.
Okay, but if you've got an 8mm plate originally,
we
you can go down to 6mm.
We could go down. If I have 8mm, I'm talking about the base metal.
Yeah.
The base metal, we need to have a remaining thickness of 6 millimeter, and if it's lower, we need to discuss with class and client if it's acceptable or not. It's on a case-to-case basis.
And is that literally because you can't pull up and damage the original plate?
No, it's because we have to put a limitation. Class society do not have to have a wide rule. So, and after, that's true. If the remaining steel is very thin, it will be an issue for us.
Yeah.
We are working on some spacers in order to minimize the deflection in between that, but we need to qualify it. So there will be some possibility, but not yet qualified.
Okay.
And then on the top plate, on that point, what you said earlier about the vacuum,
Yes.
when you say the vacuum is so strong that the top plate can
Deflect.
be sucked in,
Deflect. It
deflected.
deflects.
Okay, so it's not a flat deck. You can have
It's
dishing, so to speak.
yeah.
Due to that.
Usually the dishing, I mean, that will be lighter than the natural slope you will have for drainage onto FPSO, which is typically 5%. We don't have that. Okay?
Thanks.
Thank you. Tac. So, here we're talking about the Cyclo, so it's not a reinforcement now, it's miniaturization of what all the experience that we gain onto the reinforcement, but to have another function, which is not reinforcing, but to have a stud. Basically, we have a bonded mechanical fastener, a stud, which is here when drilling or welding is an issue, that provide 1 ton rating in shear and in tension. Okay, so we have a rated mechanical capacity, repeatable performance, durability, etc. And still the same, you can see the adhesive and the O-ring. It's a bit like a watch. You have the O-ring which is compressed and will prevent the water from reaching the bond line. So the idea is to use it for tertiary steel, where it's tricky, above crude oil tank, for instance. And the beauty for a structural engineer or naval architect is that you will not have, or you have very low SCF compared to a typical handrail or Doppler plates. There is no heat affected zone, there is no residual stress, there is no need to do some pen touch-up at the opposite surface. So basically it's transparent in terms of footprint for the base metal itself. So it's intended for ATEX environment, and I'm going to show you how this works. So we have a tool which is called Seahawk, so it's an installation tool. So what you see here is the bonded mechanical fastener, Cyclo, and here the tool is a control box, a bell. We have a surface preparation which is mandatory. Then we insert the the fastener into the bell, and we dispense a quantity of adhesive, put it back, and then we install Cyclo. From that, you don't touch anything, just push the button and everything will be done automatically. So vacuum, dehydration, control of atmospheric parameter. Once you reach the atmospheric parameter that you need, such as 28 degrees and 8% of relative humidity, you can see the vacuum is quite low, then you do the descending. What is interesting as well is we can monitor every parameter, so we can have a full traceability. And then we have the laydown, we have the descent of the fastener, and still the compressed steel, and that's it. So it's, remember, 1 ton mechanical capacity in tension and in shear. Cycle time is typically from 15 to 25 minutes, and that's it. So this is a Seahawk. We have NDT. Typical NDT that we have visual is we have a gauge that we will set into the base metal and the Seahawk, Cyclo, sorry, to make sure that the seal is compressed to the required level. And after, for critical application, we have a proof load test, which is probably the best NDT, because you demonstrate that the fastener is able actually to take the loads that you want. So we have a simple device that can be installed in a few minutes, and then you test it up to, let's say, 2 or 3 times the capacity, and then you can demonstrate that yes, it works and it will hold the load. So for handrail, for instance, this is what we will recommend before using it. And then removal. So one question was how do you remove the reinforcement? We tried to remove this fastener at the first place, so we took the toughest guy of our team with a big hammer. After half an hour, the hammer was damaged. The Cyclo as well, but it was not removed. So we had to design something. we called at the first place a guillotine, but it was a bit too French, so we decided to call it cyclo remover. That was more politically correct. So the whole idea is to insert a wedge in between the fastener and the base metal, and then it will force quite easily the cyclo off the base metal. When it says 5 minutes, it's probably exaggerated. 2 or 3 minutes is enough. So you can see the wedge is actually part of the moving part, and the fixed part is actually fixed onto the cyclo. That's it. So it's meant to be permanent, but on some application, the clients want it to be temporary. Okay, so after there's many applications. So I'm going to show you a typical application such as 100. So here it was the top of a roof tank onshore, where a client needed to put additional handrail, so he didn't want to stop his tank. So it's easy, we can do surface preparation and do cyclo installation and having the handrail installed. So we can have different geometries. Sometimes you want to have the walkway clear of any obstacles, so we can have like a cantilever type, or semi-flush or compact type, or put that onto the kick plate which is existing. So different configurations that's possible. Another application that I like is probably this one. I can see it here. Sideshell. No, I can't see. C'est celle-là ou pas? C'est quoi celle-là? C'est... Non, c'est celle-là, je pense. Ah non, boat landing. Bon, small boat landing. So do surface preparation, still the same routine. Then you install, you do a proof load test. After you have your a typical interface plate. And then in order to avoid that it plays, you apply a load, and it's a bit like a balance. Basically, it's a stud. So which one is it? This one? Yeah, okay, thanks. So this one, a client had an issue on a side shell. He needed to replace, I think it was a small support. I'm not sure what it was about. It was too, the corrosion was quite heavy. He was not allowed to drill and not allowed to weld. So this is what we propose, is actually to make a simple support with a cantilever and to replace basically the function here. And the last one, which will be this one, when you need an anchor point to pull a skid for removal, sometimes you cannot weld or you cannot attach to it or you cannot drill, and this is the solution, is actually to make small anchor points for that. Still the same story, surface preparation, installation of cyclo, then to have a proof load test, and then you do the typical pad eyes, which will be connected to that, and then you will be able to pull a few tons. If you have other questions, maybe I will treat it for you. Okay, installation guide as well. So to summarize, quick installation time. We have a traceability as well. We can have a full traceability because we record, we monitor every parameter, so we can record them, and then we can have a link RFID with the identification of the fastener and all its installation history. So if the client wants to have the full traceability, we are able to provide it onto the cloud, so it's painless for the clients. We are having a certification process because it's a very new product. So we have the short-term loading, which is now terminating, and we are going to the long-term loading. Long-term loading is typically creep. It's a test that takes a lot of time, something like 6-month test, in order to be able to extrapolate for a more long time. So this is why we wanted to segregate that, one for short-term and one for long-term. We have completed already 6 jobs. We have for Total, SBM, Angola, Murphy, you can see it. One job completed for Exxon in Indonesia. This one is interesting. Is about a leak, you will see. And another one is a hatch cover. Okay, so this is a typical cyclo that we put for pipe supports that are badly damaged, and then we can replace them. The same is that was our first job in Malaysia. It was a small platform where a pipe was actually clashing with escapeway, so we need to provide that. It was above crude oil tank, so it was an ideal application. Okay, typical deck upgrade. I think I wanted to have the video of this one. C'est après? Okay. Deck upgrade. So this is now for local betting. So we were talking about hull gather strength. This one is local upgrade. So let's say you're on a fixed platform or on the top side. You have in between joists a plating which is thin, which is too thin to be used and then to be replaced. We can double it. So it's like a doubler plate, but with no welding. So the solution is basically we will provide some support very close to the joist, above the joist, and then we will bridge with a new plate in between the supports. So we managed to have still the same surface preparation, we paint, and then we have cyclo fastener that we install at this dedicated location. We can do the adhesive bonding. We can do the proof load test. And once it's done, we have some 1 meter by 1 meter plates, and then we install them. We have a sealing device to make sure that the water is not reaching underneath. We tighten them, so we compress the seal. So the seal is actually ensuring that the water is not getting trapped in between. But still it's inspectable, meaning that you will be able, at in 5 years' time, for instance, to open quite easily and to control whether there is some corrosion behind or not. And if there is some corrosion, you can do the pen touch-up and then put it back. So we make sure that it works at least engineering-wise. So of course, if you have a plate onto the top of a plate, you can take all the loads. You're relieving the existing one. This one, container sea fastening. So one client asked us, he has a problem when he puts a container, he needs to weld the twist lock. So we managed to design something which is twist lock, but bonded and not welded. So you can see the twist lock. So now I think you know the routine now. So surface preparation, installation with the tool, proof load test if required, and then you install the tool. So this typically the capacity you have is 4 tons, and actually 1 ton per fastener for short-term loading is very conservative. If we pull on a fastener, usually the failure on short-term would be onto the threaded rod at 6 tons. So we have quite a conservative safety factor. I think we are nearly finished. And the last, this one is weldments. So this is what we call inspectable cement box. This is the concept, and after you will see a picture of the job we did in Indonesia for Exxon. So here there is a weldment, you have a porosity, you have crude oil tank at the top, and the oil is leaking. So what we'll do, we install 4 anchoring points, and then we have a device that will have a blue seal, so it's a fluorosilicone, it's a very durable material in contact with hydrocarbon, that we will force it onto the porosity. And here we develop contact pressure which is sufficiently high to stop any leakage. The good thing here, it stops the leakage, so it's cold obviously, it's inspectable, meaning that you do not need to destroy the cement box to inspect it, so you just need to undo the bolting and to inspect the porosity to make sure that it doesn't become a crack or something. Usually the class society likes the idea. So this is the So this is what we done for Exxon. So it's a bit different, but it's the same principle. We have anchorage points here to cyclo, and then we will force this part, and we will squeeze the blue seal, which is made of fluorosilicone, and that will prevent the oil from leaking. So we did a mock-up for that in lab, where we apply delta P with a gas, which was twice the actual pressure heads that we did. It was working very well, and we applied that in life, and it was inspected, and it works perfectly. Okay, so the good thing is, even if the permanent status is usually difficult to get, the fact that you can inspect, and if everything is fine, it put it back, and then you extend it for 5 years or whatever the inspection pace is up to the end of the life of your PSA. And finally, this is something that we are working on. It's actually we have complete 1 ton. It's what we call 10, 100, 1000. If we want to have a demonstrator that we can go from tertiary steel to primary steel using a combination of cyclo. So we did 1 ton, obviously we completed. We did a 10 ton capacity, and we managed to reach more than 25 tons by combining 4 cyclo together. And the next step will be, or maybe I have the video, no? And the next step will be 100 tons, and the step further will be 1000 tons. So already 100 tons, I'm sure this is a world first to transfer 100 tons through a bonded connection. The good thing here for the 10 ton capacity, so we demonstrate we could achieve 10 ton. After 18 ton, we had a failure of 1 cyclo, but not in the bonded line, in the threaded rod. But the fact that we had a failure on 1/4 didn't generate a catastrophic failure. It stopped, it was a crack stopper, because all the load were taken with the 3 others. And we could go up to 25 ton, and at 25 ton we need to stop the test because we reached the capacity, maximum capacity of the testing machine. Okay, so we are very confident for the 100 and 1000. And I think that's it. So I will be delighted to answer your questions.
Have you conducted any aging tests on the seal?
Yes. We are, for the first products, definitely yes. We have done accelerated aging test, meaning that we place a mock-up of the seal with reactive powder, so it changed color in case of detection of humidity, more than 50%. We place them over 3 years in a high temperature, 60 or 70 degrees, and we had a frequent inspection. And with Arrhenius law, you can do extrapolation.
Yes.
So it's for something like 20 years of service life, and we are doing the same for the cyclo at this time.
And are there any in-service temperature limits?
Yes.
Upper and lower?
Yes. For the first one, we have a 55 degree maximum service temperature. It's not for failure, it's for efficiency. Because if you are close to the TG, glass transient temperature, it becomes a bit like chewing gum.
Sure.
And then the efficiency is not as good as it should be. So 55 degrees for the first product, for cold chill, is the maximum temperature, and we are qualifying resin which is for 70 degrees. Okay, but we made a lot of temperature sensor onto FPSOs, and 52 degrees was a very maximum we could monitor over 6 months under the flare, under the sun. So sometimes it can be higher than that, I know, but for our case, for Angola, it was good. Okay, for the second product, we can go up to 100 degrees as a service temperature. 100 degrees.
And lower temperatures?
Minus 50.
Minus 50.
Between minus 50 and minus 20. We are doing two type of tests. Okay. We try minus 100 and it was a bit brittle.
Yes.
Steel would be as well.
Yes, but it's funny because it's a bit counterintuitive. I'm a steel man, and for steel it's very detrimental. For adhesive it's not so obvious. It depends on the chemistry. We have one methacrylate adhesive and one epoxy adhesive. Some behave differently with temperature.
I see. For how long have you been? For how long has it been going on?
2016 was first installation. The company was set in 2011, and we've done 3-4 years of research and development, and we had the first product to be launched. So bear in mind that it says we have been challenged like hell by Class Society, especially Bureau Veritas, because they were the first one. Once you have the first one, after it's easier. But for the first one, it was pretty tough, but we managed to have right answers.
Do you ever think you'll get to a stage where untrained people could operate?
This is our dream, but not yet. We have to train people. Usually we have partners that we train people. Our vision is actually that we will be able to deliver a box, basically a cabinet full of C-close and installation tool, and then the people will install as they want with no hot work permit, with an ATEX-rated tool and so on. We have not reached the maturity in terms of robustness for our tool, so it needs to be us still, but we hope in a few years we will be able to reach these limits.
Is all stainless steel the C-core card?
We have two. Usually we recommend stainless steel, but some of our clients are afraid of galvanic corrosion, so we have normal standard steel, but with a corrosion issue that we know. Usually if you have corrosion, meaning that the maintenance has not been done, and we do not recommend to use normal steel. Adhesive layer is an insulation, so meaning that we don't have conductivity. So we try to demonstrate and convince the client that we will not have any issue regarding galvanic corrosion, but if he still believes he has so, we can make a normal steel.
Any more questions? There's no questions online, right? Yeah, no. Okay, if nothing more, is that all right?
Okay.
So if that's the case, thanks, John, for this very
Thank you very
informative
much.
and enlightening presentation. And on behalf of the institute, I'd like to hand over the certificate to you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And the usual manner, let's give a big round of applause to John. And a big thank you to everyone present here and those joined online for your participation. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.